two considerations while choosing the primary index. One is the unique distribution of the rows, and the other is the usage of the column when we use this table. So when we create a primary index while insertion, the primary index of each and every incoming row is given as input to the hash algorithm, and this hash algorithm hashes all the rows across the all available amps. Okay. So once the distribution happens, and when we start selecting the data, and if we use the primary index in the where clause, the hash algorithm already knows what is the row hash value of this particular primary index and in which amp it has been stored, so it can directly go and pick up the row from that particular amp. So that is called as an 1 amp operation. So this is an optimized way and the best way of accessing data out of Teradata tables. Okay, you create a primary index and use the primary index in the select clause, so it would give you a 1 amp operation, which is the best way of retrieving of the data, the primary way of retrieving of the data. Okay. And we have seen some scenarios how the data distribution happens if I choose a unique primary index. If all the values are unique, the unique distribution happens, because the hash algorithm generates a unique hash value, and in round robin fashion it will select one of the amps to select that particular row. So the unique distribution is possible when we select a unique column as the primary index. Okay. If I select a non-unique primary index, it may happen that the data could be skewed. Okay. And if I select more duplicated values, then it could happen more skewed. 2 amps are empty and 2 amps are only having data, so the workload would be distributed across all the available amps, so it is not giving the best performance out of the Teradata parallel processing. Okay, so we have to choose a primary index which can give the best distribution in the data, and then we have to consider, are we going to use that column in the select clause or not. Okay, if both the criteria are met at a single column, that is the best candidate to be chosen as a primary index. Otherwise, we will give priority to the distribution, and then we will follow the other techniques like secondary indexes, join indexes for the secondary accessing of the data. Okay, we'll see those concepts very soon. Okay, and yesterday we have seen the key differences between the primary key and the primary index. Okay. And now we are going to see the internals of primary index, okay, the hashing algorithm mechanism. So hashing primary index values. So what happens when we start inserting the data? First, the parser would take those rows, and out of that particular row, it will see the primary index value, and the primary index value is given as input to the hash algorithm. Okay. And hash algorithm will generate a value called row hash. Okay. This is a 32-bit number. Okay. For example, you can see here the primary index value is 38. The hash algorithm has taken the 38 value as an input, and it has generated a 32-bit value in a hexadecimal format. Okay. If you try to decode each and every digit in binary, then it would come 32 digits. Okay. So all 8 digits multiplied with 4 binary digits, it would come 32. Okay, so the hash algorithm would generate a 32-bit hash value, and out of this 32-bit, the first order 16 bits are called as hash bucket number. Okay, so out of this 32-bit row hash value, the first ordered 16 bits are called as hash bucket number. Okay, and this hash bucket number is used to look up the amp number in hash map table. Okay. What is this hash map? Hash map is a static table which is configured along with the Teradata, and it has the hash buckets in which the amp number exists. Okay, let's see that. So this is the hash map. It is a static table which is configured along with the Teradata configuration itself in the organization, okay, based on the number of amps in the system. Okay, all these values are static. So all cells are called as hash buckets. Okay, within the hash map, okay, we can assume it as a table with 15 columns starting from 0 to F, that is hexadecimal values, with 0 to F, the 15 columns or 16 columns, sorry, and the rows, which would start from 1 to almost 4.2 billion rows. You can consider if it is a 32 amp system. Okay, for example, we have considered here a 16 amp system. That's where all the hash bucket values, if you observe, the minimum value is 0, 0 here, and what is the maximum value is 15. Okay, so how many amps we have? 0, 0 to 15 means 16 amps. So it is a 16 amp system, and this is the hash map of a 16 amp system. Okay, in this hash map system, we have 16 columns starting from 0 to F, the hexadecimal values, and the rows would start from 1 to almost 2.1 billion. You can consider. Okay, and hash bucket values are predefined at the time of Teradata configuration itself. Okay, and see the primary index value, the hash algorithm take this primary index value as input and is giving a 32-bit hash bucket, okay, a 32-bit row hash value, and out of this 32-bit row hash value, the first order 16 bits, this 691B, is called as hash bucket number. Okay, so when we divide each digit as a binary, it would come like this. Okay, the 691B14AE is divided into binary, so it comes total 32-bit, and out of this total 32-bit, the first order 16 bits are called as hash bucket number, and this hash bucket number is used to look up the hash map table. Okay, the first 3 digits 691 are considered as a row, and the last digit is considered as a column. So we'll see where this row and column are coinciding at what hash bucket. So this is the hash bucket. The rows and columns of the hash bucket number is coinciding, and the value of the hash bucket number is nothing but the amp number. So 09. So the row which has the primary index value as 7202 to be stored in the 9th amp. So the record will be stored in the amp number 9. Okay, so these are the internals of the primary index mechanism, where within the hash algorithm it would generate the 32-bit row hash value. Out of the 32-bit row hash, the first order 16 bits are called as hash bucket number, and this hash bucket number is used to look up the hash map table, which is a static table configured at the time of Teradata configuration itself. Okay, the rows and columns, wherever the rows and columns are coinciding, that particular hash bucket number, okay, that particular hash bucket value is considered as the amp number in which this record has to be stored. So in the 9th amp, the record which has the primary index value as 7202 is stored. The entire record will be stored along with the primary index and the row hash value also. Okay, so let us see the flow here again. Okay, the index value is given input to the hash algorithm, and the hash algorithm generates a row hash value of 32-bit, okay, and the first order 16 bits are called as the hash bucket number, and this hash bucket number HBN is used to look up the hash map table, which is the static table, okay, and this hash map table has the hash bucket values which determines the amp numbers, and from there it can determine in which amp this particular record to be stored. So this is the entire flow when we insert the rows into a Teradata table. Each index value is hashed, row hash value is generated, the hash bucket numbers are used to look up the hash map tables, and hash map tables will determine the AMP numbers in which the row has to be stored. Okay, so when we insert the data, there are two scenarios in which we may have the duplicate hash values generated. Can we guess what are those two situations when we get duplicate row hash values while insertion of the rows? Okay. The first one is when we have a non-unique primary index and when we are allowing duplicate index values in the primary index, right? So there you may get, you may not, you will get the duplicate the hash values generated, right? The duplicate NUPI values. So whenever we have a non-unique primary index and we have a duplicated index values in that, the hash algorithm would generate same row hash values. Okay, those are called as duplicate NUPI values. Okay, there is one more situation where you may get duplicate row hash values. Okay, that situation is called hash synonyms. Okay, what is this? Even though the primary index values are not same, sometimes the hash values of those two records may be same because of the limitation of the hash algorithm to generate unique values for a single table. Okay. If we consider a 32-bit AMP system, the hash algorithm can generate 4.2 billion unique number of hash values. Okay. And if you have a table which is having more than 4.2 billion rows in a single table, then there may be a chance that the hash values are regenerated to the different records which were already generated for the other rows during the insertion. Yes, so it is very rare situation where you have 4.2 billion beyond records in a single table with a 32 AMP system. Then you may hit a problem of hash synonyms. That means two different records, even though the index values are not same, they may have same row hash value. Okay, those records are called as hash synonyms. Okay. To identify these duplicate values, even though it is a duplicate NUPA value, okay, where the row hash value is different for two different records, where primary index is equal, but there may be a chance the hash values may be different even though the primary index values are not same in case of hash synonyms. Okay, in these two scenarios, to identify each and every record uniquely, the hash algorithm would generate one more value called uniqueness value. Okay, again, uniqueness value is a 32-bit number, okay, generated along with the row hash value, which is again a 32-bit value. Okay, the combination of this row hash value of 32-bit and the uniqueness value of 32-bit is called as a row ID. Okay, so now how many bits the row ID contains? It is row ID is the combination of the row hash value of 32-bit and a uniqueness value of 32-bit. So it is a 64-bit row ID which is generated by the hash algorithm finally. Okay, we know what is the row hash value. So row hash value is generated as a 32-bit, and out of these 32 bits, the first order 16 bits, the hash bucket number is used to look up the hash map table and to determine the AMP number. Okay, and what is this uniqueness value? This uniqueness value is used to determine each and every record uniquely, even though they are duplicate NUPIs or hash synonyms. What is a duplicate NUPI? When we have a non-unique primary index, we may have duplicate primary index values which would generate the same row hash values. Okay, those are called as duplicate NUPIs. And what is the hash synonym? As per the limitation of the hash algorithm to generate unique hash values, okay, after its capacity, if we consider a 32 AMP system, it can generate 4.2 billion unique hash values. If we have more than 4.2 billion records in a single table, then there may be a chance that a hash value is regenerated for the different record which was already generated for an other record during the insertion. Okay, so those records where even though the primary indexes are different, you may get the same hash value. So those records are called as hash synonyms. So in these both cases, to identify the records uniquely, the hash algorithm would generate a value called uniqueness value of 32-bit. Okay, this is also added to the row hash value of 32-bit to call as a row ID. So this row ID of 64-bit is actually stored along with the row data in each AMP. Okay, along with the actual row data, the row ID of 64-bit, which is the combination of row hash value and the uniqueness value, is also being stored in each AMP. Okay. You can see here the row hash and uniqueness ID is called as row ID and is stored along with the row data. And rows are logically maintained in a row ID sequence within the AMP. Yeah. Once the data distribution happens based on the primary index values and after determining the AMP number, within the AMP, how the data is being stored as per the row ID sequence. Okay. You can see the example here. Okay. So here, these are 3 duplicate index values. Okay, let's suppose last name is the index in this table. So we have 3 duplicates. So we have 3 row hash values generated same because the primary index value is same. So when it is given as input to the hash algorithm, it has generated same hash values for all these 3 records. So how do we determine each and every record uniquely? Because of the unique ID, uniqueness value, which is incremented 1 for each and every regeneration of the hash value. Okay, for the first time generation of this row hash value, this uniqueness ID is having 1. For the second time generation of the same row hash value, the uniqueness ID contains 2, and for third time it is 3. And when we have the new index value, it has generated a new hash value and the uniqueness ID is 1. Okay. And here we have 2 different index values, but we have same hash value because of hash synonyms. Okay, this is an example of hash synonym. You can see here. We have different index values, but still we have same row hash value generated because of the hash synonyms. So in the hash synonym case also, for the first record which has the hash value, will have the uniqueness ID is 1, and when it is regenerated second time, the uniqueness ID is 2. So with the combination of row hash and uniqueness ID, it means the row ID, you can determine each and every record in the AMP uniquely. And the rows in the AMP are stored in the sequence of the row ID. So this is the order. All hash values, and within the hash values, the uniqueness ID sequence. So this is how the AMP data would be stored. So along with the whole row data, we have the row ID also stored within each AMP along with the data. And the order is the row ID sequence. Okay. And this is to see the duplicate rows. Okay. So before this, okay, let's go to our first slide which we have started, and let's see whether we have understood all the things here. What happened? Okay, questions? Just a moment. Let me unmute you so that you can ask the questions. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Manohar, this is Pawan. I have a question. In the same slide, right? I mean, you said the first 16 digits are meant for a row hash map.
Yeah.
What about the other 16 digits in the 32-bit row hash?
These are for the future purpose. Right now, they are not using this. In future, if
Okay.
the number of amps may be increased, then they may use the whole 32-bit number to determine the amp values. Right now, they are not using it.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay. And I see one more question here from Rajneesh. If we add a new node with more amps, yes, whenever we upgrade the existing Teradata system by adding the number of amps or by adding the new nodes, then the hash map is also again refreshed as per the new configuration and new number of amps, so that the hash algorithm would find and give the parallel distribution, even distribution across all the new available amps. Okay. And no one need to maintain these hash tables and hash map tables. Okay, they are configured at the time of configuration or the upgradations. Okay, so whenever we do upgradation, so it is a default maintenance done at the hash map tables also, so that when we reboot the system, it will determine all the amps and can distribute the data across all the available disks. And no maintenance is required in the hash maps.
Okay. Manohar, like if we add a new node or we increase the number of amps in the system, what happens basically like to the existing system? I mean, let's say here in the diagram, AMP9 has, let's say, 1 million records. So will it redistribute or how does it work actually?
Yes. So see, in this hash map of a 16 amp system, we have seen the minimum value as 0 and the maximum value as 15. Right? If I show you the 32 amp system, the minimum value is 00, but the maximum value would be 31. Okay, so the number of rows will be increased and the hash bucket number values will be redefined as per the new configuration, but the columns would exist same. Okay, because of the 32 amps now, you may get 32 also in some of the hash buckets, so that that amp, the new amps will also be determined to be stored some data whenever it has the hash values equivalent to determine the 32 amp.
Okay, so that means the data will redistribute.
Yes.
So data on AMP9 may go to data to AMP10 or AMP.
Yeah, maybe any amp. So as per the new hash map table, when you reboot the system after the upgradation, as per the new hash map values, it may redistribute the same row which is now in the AMP9. It may go to some other amp.
Okay.
Sure.
Thanks, Manoj.
No problem. Okay, so in this, the parser hash algorithm, the row hash value, the first order 16 bits, and it generates the amp number by looking up the hash map table, and in each and every amp we have the row ID, which is the combination of row hash value and the uniqueness value. The total 64-bit would be stored in each and every amp along with the row data, and within the amp the rows are stored based on the row ID sequence. Okay, so this is all about this primary index internal mechanism.
So how does how does a row knows that this row belongs to a certain table in an AMP?
It would internally maintain the table ID also.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Table ID with the row ID. So right now we are not making everything. So in partition indexes, we will get to know that there are some new values are also generated with the hash algorithms. So as of now, this is what we have to know, that row ID is generated and the row data, and table ID is also maintained internally.
Okay.
Any other questions before I forward for the next topic? Okay, so I've seen the hash map, hash bucket numbers, and the two scenarios where we may get the hash similarities, that duplicate NUPAs and hash synonyms, and everything is determined.
So Manohar, this is basically an internal concept. I mean, as a DBA, we need to know, but we won't be seeing all this technically, right? I mean,
these are the essentials for anyone Okay, who says I know Teradata? They should know all these things.
Okay.
Even though a DBA, even though a developer, okay, they all should know all these concepts. Yeah, because in all other topics, whatever we cover, we refer all these values through hash values, AMP numbers, all this. So to understand all other topics, you have to be familiar with all the terminology here in the basic format.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Okay. So here there is a small concept of duplicate rows. How the duplicate rows are treated in a Teradata table. Okay. We have two types of tables in Teradata. The one type is called as multi-set table, where it would allow a row level duplicate values in the table. And we have one more type of table called set table. When we have a set table, it won't allow a row level duplicate. Okay, when I say duplicate here, the row level, all the columns in all the values will be verified before it inserts the data into the table. So that is called as a set table, where it won't allow a row level duplicate, and a multi-set table which allows the row level duplicates. Okay, so there is a scenario which type of index should be chosen for which type of table. We have two types of indexes, that is primary index, unique primary index and non-unique primary index, and we have two types of tables, set and multi-set. Okay, so which type, that is either set or multi-set, to be chosen with the combination of unique primary index or a non-unique primary index. Okay, that is a performance tuning concept actually. Okay, what do we say? Whenever we choose a table should be in a set mode, that is not to allow the duplicate values, the row level duplicate values, then it is better to determine a unique primary index on the table. Okay, why? Because in a set table it won't allow row level duplicates. So let's suppose I have already inserted some million of records in the set table, and now if I am inserting a new row, what happens? All the columns of the table, let's suppose I have 150 columns in the table and I have 1 million rows already inserted in the table, and now I'm going to insert a new record. So what happens? To decide whether this new row to be inserted or not, the Teradata has to verify all the columns, the 150 columns of all 1 million rows, to see whether this row is already existing or not. Okay, then only it can decide whether this row has to be inserted or not. Okay, so it is a very tedious job when we have a set table. Yeah, to optimize the performance of the set table, if you choose a unique primary index which has either one or two columns as a composite primary index, let's suppose unique primary index, and now if you are inserting it, then instead of validating the values against all the 150 columns, it is enough to validate against the two columns which is defined as a primary index, the unique primary index. Right, so you can optimize the insertion process into the set table when you choose a unique primary index, which is the subset of the entire column set in the table. Okay, so this is a performance tuning technique. Whenever you choose a set table, that means whenever you want to restrict the duplicate rows to be allowed into the table, then it is better you choose a unique primary index as far as possible. Okay, it won't stop you to choose a non-unique primary index, but it would be better in terms of performance if you choose a unique primary index for a set table. Okay, and coming to the multi-set table, the multi-set table would allow all the row level duplicates, so no conditions at the row level. Okay, so in this case, okay, if you put a unique primary index, there will be a condition there at least where it would populate the data. Okay, if you don't have a condition at the primary index also, that means if you have created a non-unique primary index, so there is no condition to be evaluated at the primary index and there is no condition to be evaluated at the row level, so the load process would be highly fastest. Okay, the fastest insertion would happen if the combination is multi-set with a non-unique primary index. Yeah, so we use this combination multi-set and non-unique primary index in the staging tables, where we allow all the source data into the staging table, and then we actually start our transformations, right? So at the staging table, it is preferred to have a table with a multi-set and non-unique primary index, where they don't have any conditions while insertion of the data, so the insertion, the load process would be highly faster. And at the model tables, whenever you want the duplicate values not to be stored in the table, then you choose a set table and a unique primary index as far as possible, so that the load can be optimized. Okay, so the combinations should be UPI with the set table and a NUPI with a multi-set table. So this is, okay, we have to consider when we define the table at the physical implementation level. Okay, when we complete with the logical data model and we are trying to implement the model at the Teradata physical database, then we have to consider, okay, the set and the index combination also while implementation of the physical model. Okay. So any questions in this? So before this, okay, I will show you how to start a Teradata system before the next topic. So once we have the Teradata, okay, you can start it either through VMware if you have the Windows 7 operating system, or if it is Windows XP, then you can directly start your Teradata. Okay. And we'll start our Teradata and we'll see the table definition, okay, how we'll write the syntax for a table, and we'll create a table and see. So it is my XP system which is booting through virtual machine. So once you install Teradata, you will have Teradata service control on your desktop. Okay, so this is the starting point where you can start the Teradata service engine. Okay, when you double click it, it would give you a pop-up where it shows you a start Teradata button. Okay, so you have to start Teradata, so that it will start all the required engines with processes. It would take some time. And if you observe, the same button, start Teradata, would be toggled to stop Teradata now. And here the status you can observe. The PDE state is run or started. So the PDE has started now. What is PDE? The parallel database extension. So on the operating system, the Windows XP operating system, the PDE is start running now. So now my operating system can understand all the Teradata RDBMS concepts, that is virtual processing concepts. So now the Teradata is running. So now I can establish a session with the Teradata server. So how can I establish? With Teradata client utilities, either Teradata SQL Assistant. The first time you can open it within all programs, then Teradata client. So in the client, all these are client utilities. Okay, you may start the Teradata SQL Assistant, which is a GUI tool to establish a session with Teradata. Okay, So once it open, this is the connect button. You can click on it, and in the machine data sources, okay, you may have a default DSNs created first time. The TD user is the default DSN which would exist in your systems. In my system it got deleted, and I have created my user defined DSN. So in your system when you install it, the TD user DSN would exist in the machine data sources. Just double click on that or click a OK button here to connect to the Teradata server, and internally this DSN uses the user name called TD user again. Okay, these are the default users installed along with the demo version of Teradata. You can use those existing users, that is TD user and the TD user DSN, and the password for the username is also TD user. Okay, the username is TD user, the password is TD user, the DSN created for this username is also a TD user. So you can find out the TD user existing in your machine data source and double click on it, so it will connect with the user called TD user. Just take my time. Okay, and when you are disconnecting the systems, close all the client applications and then again click on the stop Teradata, so that it will stop running of the Teradata services, and then close it. So before you shut down it, please take care of stopping the Teradata services before you shut down. So it is a best practice to close all the client utilities and then stop the Teradata and shut down your systems. Okay, so now it has connected and the user is TD user. Okay, the DSN I used is DevTera, but for you it may be TD user again here also. Okay, so and for the demo version of Teradata, we have some default databases installed. Okay, those are called financial and retail. Okay, you can add those databases in your database explorer, in the existing databases, and we can use those tables. Select star from. Okay, I know a table in retail database, first one which I have created. You can access the data of a Teradata table through SQL Assistant. Okay, so this is called an history window, where it will capture all the SQLs you execute, at what time, with what user ID you have executed, how much time it has taken, how many rows it has displayed, and what is the error messages, if any. Okay, everything is captured in the history window. Okay, the first time you can enable it in the view window, show history, so that the history would also be displayed here. View, show history. Okay, and now you see the rows. Okay, so this is an SQL window, this is an answer set window, this is an history window, and this is the database explorer, where it will show you the tree hierarchy of the tables and objects. Okay, if I click on this plus button, it would expand the tree, so whatever tables, whatever views it has, it would show in this window. Okay, now if you would like to show the definition of the table, you may go to the table, see the columns, and we have a command called show. There's an error. Let me close this. You will see a table definition, how the set and multi-sets are defined and how the primary index are defined, so that we can have an minimum understanding. Show table retail dot cust1. So this is the command, the Teradata extension command, show table, where you can see the definition of the existing table. See. Okay. So here will determine whether it is a set table or a multi-set table. And whenever it is a set table, it is preferred to have a unique primary index in the table. Here it is a non-unique primary index, but it is preferred to have a non-unique primary index in the data warehousing tables, so that we can optimize the load process. Instead of verifying the incoming row against all these rows, we can verify it only at the cust ID column itself, to determine whether it is a candidate row to be inserted in this table or not, so that we can optimize our insertion process. If it is a multi-set, then have a non-unique primary index, so that no conditions are required at any place at the index level or at the row level, so that the load will be very much faster. So you can have the stage tables with this combination of multi-set and the non-unique primary index. Okay. And we will see all these fallbacks, journals, the data protection concepts. Okay, then we will understand it. Okay, for now, let's see. Okay. For any query, you can see the explained plan of the execution. Okay. So by pressing F5 or by clicking the execute button, it will execute and it will give you the answer set. But now I wanted to see the execution plan of the optimizer in an English translation. Then the command is explain, where it will give the explanation of the optimizer plan to execute this particular SQL. Okay, now prefix the explain keyword to the SQL what you need to execute, and then click on execute button. It would give you the explain plan, which show you the plan of execution and the number of steps involved in execution of this SQL. Okay, there are 4 steps involved in execution of the simple query select star from table. Okay, first it has to lock, and then it has to retrieve rows from all the amps, because we didn't give any condition, right? So we are requesting all the rows, so it has to go and check all the amps in which this table is distributed and can get the data back to the user, right? And it is estimating 14 rows to be there in the table, and it is estimating 0.03 seconds to retrieve the data. Yeah. And then it would end the transactions and give the data back to the user. The total time estimated is 0.03 seconds. So these are the estimates and the plan of the optimizer to execute this particular SQL. Okay. Now let's see, if I use my primary index. What is the primary index in this table? Customer ID. Okay. Let's see, if I use my primary index in the table, let's suppose some value, if it is there, and I wanted to see the explain plan, how the optimizer thinks to execute it again. So this is only one step operation, and it is a single amp operation because it is a primary index. So the primary index hash value is already determined by the hash algorithm during the insertion. So when you are retrieving based on the primary index, it is very easy for the hash algorithm to determine from which amp it has to pick up the row with the primary index value 7. So it is a single amp operation. Okay. Suppose if I use any non-index column, okay, let's suppose I'm using some gender. gender equal to either male or female, suppose like this. See, now it is an all amp operation because the hash values of gender are not determined during the insertion. So the hash algorithm or the optimizer won't know in which amp these particular rows are existing. So it has to set all the amps. So it will give the instruction of set the data to all amps. So all amps would work to get the data which is matching this criteria of gender equal to male and would give the data back to the users. So it is an all amp operation. Again, whenever you use a non-index column or no column in the where clauses. Okay, so the single amp operation is possible whenever you have the primary index column in the where clause. Okay, so how we can optimize those tables? Okay, where we cannot have a column for both the purpose, like the data distribution and the retrieval purpose. Okay, we may have to go for the secondary path of accessing the data, that is called the secondary index. You will see the secondary index tomorrow. Okay, so whoever have confirmed to continue for the sessions, okay, please continue. Okay, please send us a note that you are going to confirm the enrollments and will be wanted to communicate and we wanted to continue for the sessions, so that our support team would help you in continuing the sessions. If you have any questions, you can post me through email. So my email ID, you can find it here, sunmanu9@gmail.com, or you can contact our support teams. Okay, thank you very much. So tomorrow we'll meet at the same time, okay, maybe at the same link. Okay, you can join through the same link tomorrow also, and you can final your enrollments. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, you can ask me now. Okay, if you don't have any questions, you can pause. Okay, you can you can disperse, and we'll meet tomorrow at the same time. Thank you very much.